Hello and welcome to the 45th episode of the Gochuucast. And today we are going to take on a topic that we didn't think we would actually take on for quite some time because we're slowly running out of topics. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but for now we still have this one, and that is the horror genre, which I feel like definitely not many things go down the horror route, I guess. Even some of the things I've watched.
It's like Promise Neverland is probably the only horror that we've all watched, and it's not really horror feeling to me. It just kind of has that like touch to it. I guess
Has
is
horror elements.
Kind of similar in that regard as well.
Yeah, I would say Shadow's House, because there's like different types of horror, I guess. Like Shadow's House would be like a gothic horror, I suppose.
I haven't thought about the different subgenres of horror, mostly because I'm not experienced with the genre. The only one I can think of is Promise Neverland. I'd say that like more than horror elements, I feel like there's a good amount of like, I guess suspense would be more of a thriller type thing, but like there's some. I think there's a good amount. I feel like if you told me Promise Neverland was a horror, I wouldn't like that.
I wouldn't say
I'd say the first season probably more than the second. I mean, even
there's a second season.
Yeah.
That joke's old, but yeah.
It'll never get old. But
yeah. I think there's a good amount, and obviously there's like there are other shows with elements, but I think for Promise Neverland it takes a pretty big chunk of it.
One that also isn't listed on any list as a horror, but I think probably fits under that, like ReZero. It's like a psychological horror.
Yeah, so there's like the other genre, which is like thriller, which I guess is like suspense. I feel like ReZero kind of falls in that more. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it is like a thriller, but also could very well work as like a psychological horror, like especially like mid-season 1 type of thing. It's not like it's like defined by the psychological horror thing, but
sure.
Definitely some of the things that happen in there definitely have with a horror element to them, like getting eaten alive or whatever. Even just the first few episodes. Yeah, like gruesome things.
I guess it's a fear versus suspense thing. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I think ReZero has a good amount of elements of that, and I think it's not like I guess like when a lot of people think of horror, they think of like jump scares, which I mean, it's not always
jump scares like cheap horror type of thing, and like, you'll see that mainly like slashers
or like gore or something like that.
So there probably are anime slashers, but I've never heard of
Higurashi. Just like
Higurashi's
like torture porn, basically.
Yeah,
I haven't watched it. I know it's a classic. I'm gonna watch it eventually. Because I've probably said it before. Because I tried to watch Higurashi Go, which was supposed to be, it was allegedly a remake, but then it actually turned out to be like a sequel or some shit.
It's like,
and so
I think I've explained this in like a previous episode, but like it's like the way the story is, it's like kind of a sequel, but it's kind of like not. It's like it's like kind of the same story, but from a different lens. I think, as far as I can tell, from what I know of the story, from having read the manga, which again is like the 17th adaptation or whatever. From what I know, I think that remake Higurashi Go was like it's just the same story through a different lens. It's the best way I can describe it. So, it might be worth watching the original. I mean, I only know of it from the manga, which I didn't think about as like one of the pieces of Japanese media that I've consumed that could fall under the horror realm. But that would be one. Yeah, I think. Yeah, that would be horror. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think other than that, most of the things I've seen, I guess, would fall under more like the thriller genre than the horror.
Yeah, if I like click on thriller, like some of them overlap. Like Promise Neverland also listed as a thriller.
Yeah. There's a mystery involved there, kind of trying to solve that.
Like Summertime Render has horror elements, I guess.
Render
sure.
Feels like it could have been a horror.
Yeah, but I definitely agree it's more of a thriller, but
yeah,
thriller definitely fits better. Just because, like, maybe like the first, because I think of how the show evolves probably is why it would be more. Cause I feel like maybe like the first like fourth of the show, maybe you could like say and argue is a horror, but then it like really just evolves out of that, and it's not really quite as. It's definitely more of like a thriller type of thing, and that would be like maybe why ReZero is in psychological horror type of thing, because it does have those moments, but it's not like what defines the show.
The ReZero conversation also reminded me of Made in Abyss, which once again
I
don't know enough about Made in Abyss to actually say it, but the things I've heard about Made in Abyss sound very similar to what you were kind of talking about, with ReZero not necessarily being a horror, but kind of having some of those like moments to it.
I would say it definitely depends on what part of it, because I could see people saying like the movie being more of a horror, but like a horror thriller is probably the closest it comes to being a horror. Probably horrific things happen in Made in Abyss. I don't know if I would say that defines it as a horror. The AniList does have it listed as one, but I don't know if I as gruesome as it can get. I don't know if that makes it a horror really. Like it has Chainsaw Man listed as a horror as well, which I would not particularly agree with. Even if it has the elements of like, it has like some horror elements, I guess, but not like enough for me to even come close to saying it's a horror.
Yeah, I think the what's the word, like the focus of like eliciting fear in the viewer is probably the thing, and like I guess Made in Abyss kind of does it, but it's like, to me the focus of that story is not like, it's more on the like adventure and fantasy elements than like fear being the focus, I guess, which is probably what would quote unquote define
like definitely has elements of being unsettling, but I wouldn't say that's its as much as it does it. I wouldn't say that's like the focus, the focal point. I just think that's how it's so happens to tell the story or whatever.
Yeah, that's how it's presented, right? Yeah, it's I guess like the part that makes it unsettling is kind of a device used to tell the story, for lack of a better term there. So that makes sense. I think I guess one of my main issues with like horror, and like maybe some horror movie experts can like criticize me for this one. And this is also my bias for like really engaging plots. Is like if fear becomes the focus of a story, sometimes that to me, or fear becomes a focus of like a piece of media. Sometimes for me, it just kind of detracts from the story. Or oftentimes it can, which is why I'm not one of the reasons I'm not the biggest fan of horror. So,
I mean, that's like the big issue in like American horror movies and
maybe it's
slashers and stuff like that, is that in exchange for the story not getting as much development and the characters not having moments, you get suspenseful, oh, who's gonna die now type of moments, or like knowing that this is the moment that this character is gonna die and wondering like, oh, how is that gonna happen?
Yeah,
which is not something I'm particularly into, but it is something that works for a lot of the American audience. And people do get into it. And
I mean, horror's a popular genre.
I feel like
general, so
I don't see as much of that type of stuff or hear about it as much of that type of stuff with anime, perhaps because maybe it's not something the Japanese audience is as into.
That's possible. I also think it's, maybe this sounds weird, but like, and maybe it's wrong and I'm not thinking enough about it, but like, I feel like it's easier to portray horror when it's 3D, which sounds really like weird, but I feel like the human element of like, I feel like it's just easier to portray like things that are scary and that resonate with viewers a lot easier with 3D than 2D. But I don't know if that's my like hypothesis, which is why I don't think it's like nearly as common in anime than it is in actual film. So that would be my hypothesis. For
I understand the idea. I don't hate it, but because the idea would essentially be like me seeing something that could easily be real is going to hit me psychologically more than seeing something that's obviously not. I don't hate that concept, but I almost feel like to this point, animation is obviously past the point where it's like, stick figures and stuff like that.
No, I think it can hit you. It can hit you harder. I think it's just the element of fear. I think like what's a good example of this? It's like yeah, I'm trying to think of a good example, but I think for specifically fear, the emotion of fear, I feel like it might be easier with 3D than 2D. I think that that's and if that's a definition of horror, then I think yeah. I mean, I can be affected psychologically by a lot of anime, and I feel like I have, or that's elicited some sort of reaction that way. But like, I feel like fear specifically, if it's real, it's like it feels like it hurts harder. But it could just be me. I don't know.
I can kind of get it because like, I can't really think of many anime scenes that like are horrific and made me uncomfortable versus like,
Yeah.
if I see something because I know it's anime, and I guess which doesn't always apply. Like I can watch something, I can cry and get emotional about something, even if it's not, like a real life setting. But I feel like fear, it's different, because when you watch like some horror movie, like and you see a slasher, like that type of stuff technically could be real if you think about it. It's not like out of the realm of possibility.
Cocaine Bear is based on
Cocaine Bear is a true story. There's no, if you see Cocaine Bear in an anime, you're gonna laugh at it. But if you see, well, you're gonna laugh at real Cocaine Bear too.
Yeah,
but
if you see Cocaine Bear in American cinema, you're also gonna laugh at it. But then you're gonna see based on a true story at the beginning, and be like, "Well, what was the true story? Surely it wasn't just a murder cocaine bear."
yeah, I think the actual Cocaine Bear was like they found a bear with a shit ton of cocaine in it, and so they're like, for however long it was alive before its heart just stopped because the sheer amount of cocaine it consumed, it was like the most dangerous predator alive, which is probably true.
It was not what the movie is, but
yeah, I don't think a bear would definitely overdose before getting to do anything.
Murder spree.
Yeah, just a little bit. Which I guess a quick segue, I guess. Comedy horror is also a thing, which I feel like anime does more of than like, I guess two things that come to mind immediately would be like Mirako-chan and obviously Ghost Stories, though Ghost Stories is a special case.
Stories, I don't know, man.
Ghost Stories was not meant. It's not meant to be a comedy, but the dub turned it into one.
Yeah, that's It's kind of
an awkward,
hard example to like pick.
Do you think Japanese fans embrace the Ghost Stories dub?
I don't think they know.
Someone says they don't know anything about the Ghost Stories dub.
Yeah, I
don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
I can't, because why would they?
Why not? It was like an international sensation.
You'll see
international, and with respect to like the Western, but if like with the English speaking crowd, right? But like in terms of
also Japanese people are English speaking.
Well,
are they? I feel like very
it's
small.
Not their first language, but like it's not the same as how we're not taught Japanese in school, obviously.
Yeah, though
I'm not saying that English is their preferred language, but they could definitely get away with watching Ghost Stories dub and not be.
I feel like a lot of the jokes in Ghost Stories dub are like
will go over the head of anyone.
Yeah,
who doesn't.
it's like
that's probably true.
It's like
take I'm fine with.
Because like there's so many things about like I don't know like Republicans or like slang that just like it's just like English specific.
Like you'll see like what are some of one of the starts of like VTuber stuff blowing up is like they would say the N-word or whatever because they have no idea what's happening. Like they play GTA and they repeat the N-word because the character said it.
Okay.
And so when they don't like think anything about that, and so I just feel like without a proper understanding of English, they would not care for the Ghost Stories dub. Plus, they don't like. I don't think they pay attention that much to the Western side of things, especially with anime, because like. One, it's kind of like their own thing.
Why? They have their own. They literally have it in their native language.
They don't, but I still think that the Ghost Stories dub going viral was a big enough deal. Maybe it's just because I'm in the West.
Yeah, I think it's
viral with respect to what? Like,
I
Yeah.
don't think it would have not gotten into the Japanese sphere, but I don't
Maybe
know.
like some people have.
It's also not
Yeah.
necessarily a serious conversation. It was kind of just a funny passing thought of like, oh, it'd be funny if like this was the one dub that they liked.
especially
I wonder if there's an equivalent.
especially back then. I feel like because now the internet is obviously much more open, but like when the Ghost Stories dub first occurred, it is permeated through time, obviously, but at the exact same time, it's only like recently that Japanese studios are probably paying attention a bit more to the Western side of things. They're not going to like
Yeah.
bend their will to it, but like you'll see some videos where like maybe like a YouTuber went to like a Japanese animation studio and it's like, oh, do you have anything to say to the Western fans? They're like, oh, I didn't even know we had people watching overseas or whatever, because they're paying attention to their specific market and they're not really not many people are thinking about that. It's very like isolated.
Japan like Japan's like, I think music industry is like, I think the second biggest behind America. Like if you think about like or based on like money earned, revenue or whatever. But if you think about it, like how much you think about it, like it's a pretty small country, right? And like how much of Japanese music has permeated like mainstream media in other countries. And I don't mean like, of course, in like Asia and stuff like that, but like I think a
Really?
vast majority of like consumption of Japanese music is like done within Japan, which tells you number one that it's popular in their country, and it's also like other countries' music are not nearly as popular in their country as foreign music in other countries. Like, I'm sure in like France they listen to like Spanish music and music from American and British artists, but like in Japan it's like Japanese music is a lot higher of a proportion.
That's interesting to
There.
me, just knowing how, like you said, most of that is going to be in like domestic stuff.
Yeah.
But like Korean music is big a lot of places, so I'm kind of surprised that Japanese.
Yeah, but there was an effort to expand it. From what I know of, like, for example, like K-pop, like there's like a huge effort to like expand it to like Japan and China and things like that, and now obviously the West. But like, I think in Japan, like just in general, it's a lot more isolated.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm looking
so
at the this is
guess
a Wikipedia. Oh, this is from 2017 though. I don't know how worth it that is.
mhm.
Because it does have US 1, Japan 2, but then like Germany number 3.
Yeah,
But I
I
feel
mean,
like
yeah,
from 2017 to now, it would have changed a fair bit.
yeah,
Can look at this from 2021 potentially.
yeah. I think just in general, like Japan, um, just years of isolation is just kind of that's just kind of how their consumption of media has been. I mean, even if you think about anime too, it's like more of a recent thing, right? Um,
Okay, it
to be
looks
expanded into other countries and
like it
stuff like
might
that.
be the same. No, there's no fucking. I feel like this is so
I mean, it
odd.
might be roughly the same.
Well, yeah, because it's still like America and then Japan, but it says South Korea at like 50 million or whatever, which doesn't feel right. Because
Oh,
I
for
think
what, like, number?
for music, I don't know what the fucking 50 million actual annual rates of change.
Well, it's largest recorded music markets.
Yeah, just like top 10 music markets in the world or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. France has a lot of artists that are popular. France is also another country that I shouldn't say like it's isolated, but the French people generally like
Yeah,
to
they're at
consume
number
like French
5. It looks
product.
like South Korea is at number 6.
Yeah, I mean, I'd wager it's increased pretty significantly since 2017,
Well,
but I still don't
this is a
think.
2021 report or whatever,
Oh, it's still number 6. Yeah. Oh,
which
yeah. I'm
feels
looking at it's number
odd.
7.
Yeah, I don't know then.
Yeah, but you just have to remember, it's like, yeah, it's still a small country, so it's like,
I feel
Yeah.
like I thought the K-pop stands would have been a little stronger.
K-pop
man.
stamps ain't paying.
Listen, yeah, I only own 4 albums. I gotta support. I gotta buy some more. But yeah, that's it. I think with Japan, it's like, um, yeah, just in general, I think they've just been super isolated.
Yeah, and
But
like idol
obviously
culture
with
is like a pretty
anime
big
that's
thing there.
changing a lot, especially over like the past 5 years and stuff like that. I mean, it's been huge, so that's probably going to change moving forward. Um, so maybe we'll get there's an equivalent like for Ghost Stories dub in Japan for like, maybe
Maybe
their
I'll
like Japanese dub of like SpongeBob is like
maybe I'll
it's like whack. I don't know.
maybe I'll message Matt and see if there's anything funny that he's noticed since he moved there.
I can't imagine they'd because the difference between like the English language and the Japanese language is we have a lot of mean words, probably more so than
And they don't necessarily
their
I feel
language
I
is
feel like
definitely more
everybody,
like
every language does.
yeah, but I feel like the Japanese language is definitely more practical in terms of its uses versus like the English language, which will introduce a mean word every like minute.
I don't know. I think
It's
it'd be an interesting thing in general to talk about anyway, because of how isolated Japan is, to know like,
Mhm.
oh, what are the things that like have caught on?
Oh,
Which
like you mean like
so
things
so
from
like
the West?
anywhere really, but yeah, like the West is a good example because there's such a different culture gap. But like,
Hmm.
I don't know. I think it'd be cool if I was talking to someone. They were like, yeah, there was a period of time where everyone was really into this French pop song or something like that. I think that would still be cool to like hear about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure like Western artists are still like relatively popular there, and I'm sure
Mm.
um, Western movies. I mean, I, I I'm
Yeah,
sure in Japan, like everybody's seen like
Western movies are
superhero
definitely
movies and stuff.
still big over there.
Yeah, it's just I'm speaking in a relative sense, obviously. So
Yeah.
um, it's just like when you think about like America and like I mean, I'm just using American example as an example because we all live here, right? Like, uh, of course, we're not all like consuming media from like every single place all the time. But I think, if you think about, yeah, like movies from different countries, I mean, that we've had some that have been really popular from other countries. We've had some music that's been popular from other countries. We've had some shows that have been popular from other countries. So it's like, I think that's just kind of
Yeah,
always been
Americans
there.
will consume anything.
Yeah, we're consumers,
That's,
big
that's why I
consumers.
think other countries would potentially be more interesting in this like idea.
Yeah, yeah. I, I'm wondering. The thing I was thinking about because like we talk about ghost stories, the ghost stories dub, but like if you think about a ghost stories dub as kind of a meme, right? And like it has meme status. Like if you ask like an anime fan about like ghost stories dub, they'll know what you're talking about because it's like a meme. It's like haha, the ghost stories dub, right? So the thing I was thinking about, like especially with music, if you think about it, like a lot of the foreign language songs that have become popular, quote unquote popular, in the US, uh, they're kind of like fads or like memes if you think about it, right?
yeah,
It's
like
like
Gangnam
very rare.
Style has
Gangnam Style,
billions of views, but then is a big
Gangnam
meme.
Style started this giant meme and became the K-pop revolution in the
yeah,
U.S. And
it contributed.
really
It
weird.
contributed. Yeah,
It's really weird how it skated that line so perfectly.
but the thing is, even about Gangnam Style, um, it's like it started that and it got people interested in that genre. But if you think about it, it's still like it's like you would expect something that big to like, or like conventional thought might convince you that it might move into the mainstream, but it really
Bro,
hasn't.
imagine if this effect happened in Japan with the Ghost Stories dub, and then they went to see all of our
Oh my
other
gosh.
shitty dubs, thinking that they were all like that. Oh no!
Yeah. The other
Imagine
thing
what
I'm
I
thinking
thought
about,
of them.
yeah. Yeah, that'd be crazy. The other thing I was thinking about is like, if you think about like other songs like Despacito, like that's like primarily foreign language song, and
Yeah,
I don't think
Despacito was
people are
really
like super like
but yeah,
into that kind of music now. Like this is a boomer thing, but like the Macarena, right? Like the Macarena was like functionally a meme, like if you think about it. But it was really popular for like whatever the several months that it was
Macarena was a
after.
necessity because the white people didn't have any dance
yeah.
dance
Yeah,
music.
yeah,
They had
yeah,
something.
yeah, dude. I could do the Macarena now after not doing it for like 17 years. Well, I'm not white, but you know what I mean. Yeah. um, but yeah, like those kinds of things. Like uh, if you think about it, it's like memes. They're memes slash fads, right? So um, yeah, that's like just an example of like how
I mean,
in a
just
lot
because
of
stuff
cases
like
the
that.
foreign consumption of foreign foreign media often is a meme, but it becomes memes, whatever.
It's
Yeah.
because stuff like that travels like extremely well.
It does, but it also, the question is like, why doesn't it become mainstream, right? I guess like that's like the question.
When
Well,
does
I mean, there's
anything
obvious
become
answers,
mainstream?
but yeah,
I don't know.
sure.
There's yeah, it can
If
be
there
said
was
about
an
a lot
Too
of.
many
answer,
factors.
if there was an answer to why anything becomes mainstream, we would all have 1 million subs on YouTube.
No, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I just think like
Something
yeah,
clicks in the monkey brain. I don't know, dude. Like, why does everyone know crisscross applesauce off the top of their head? That exists, I guess. I don't know.
1, 2, 3, 4. I declare thumb war.
Yeah, exactly.
Bro,
Like,
I love things that feel just conditioned into like our person.
One fish,
And
two
it's
fish, red fish,
like
blue fish.
things that everyone in the world knows, or like mental things everyone in the world knows. Like the person running beside you when you're sitting in a car and you're like imagining someone running off on the side of the road. You guys may have never
the
experienced
floor of
this.
I
is
don't know
lava.
what you're talking about. What?
Yeah, so this is the thing that some people do that I did also, where it's you're bored in a car and you're looking out the window and then you just imagine a person like running alongside the car at the
I
same
have never done
speed,
this, but
like
sure.
dodging all the obstacles and shit.
That's pretty good though.
The
I've
floor,
never done
the
that.
floor is lava. I feel like that permeated
Floor is lava, that
throughout
has to exist
existence.
everywhere.
Yeah. Like, how does it? Because like, I feel like a lot of this stuff definitely like went through like pre-internet as well. Like at least pre like
Yeah.
big
Yeah, I mean,
blow up.
there.
Some
If you
of
think
it
about
are
it, those things are memes. That's like functionally a meme. Like if you think about what a meme is on the internet, right?
Yeah,
Like
but like
if you think about like
these are like
Among Us memes.
pre-internet meme.
Yeah, I mean that is literally what it is. Like we talk about like memes in the context of like internet memes, but like if you think about it, those kinds of things are they're just memes. They're actually just memes, but they're
Memes have definitely they've devolved. They've definitely they've probably devolved at this
Devolved.
point. Among Us is the downfall of meme.
they were better in 2014, bro.
That
I
should
can has
existed in
cheeseburger was
2020, but
better.
now I can't look at anything about that like generally resembles the Among Us guy without being
I'm
like,
so over the freaking Among Us stuff, but
hey, you know what? It's something that one day like people are gonna be like, what the fuck is Among Us? But I'm like 80 years old. I'm gonna not know anything. I'm gonna have no memory of like my family or anything, but I'm gonna look at a trash can and be like, Among Us. I'll remember Among Us.
Oh my gosh. You know what I was thinking about? I was mentioning the music thing. This isn't a foreign thing, but do you guys remember the Harlem Shake when that was really popular?
Yeah.
That's also like a meme, right? Yeah, I guess the question of like how something becomes mainstream. I think okay, a lot of that has to do. I mean, I'm not an expert in like marketing or whatever. Sometimes it is just random or like but I think recognizable brands and how those become mainstream is another can of worms too. But like, I feel like that often has something to do with it, like like Marvel or Marvel movies and stuff like that. I feel like those things kind of permeate, and Harry Potter and things like that. I guess the question is like how they become mainstream in the first place. I don't know. Good question.
Brands travel well because word of mouth exists.
Yeah.
So the more popular something is in a smaller audience, the more it grows exponentially.
Yeah.
Memes are more interesting because the fundamental idea behind why memes would be popular is just the idea that people naturally respond to comedy and also shock.
Yeah.
And those
like
are
the floor is lava.
Yes. And those are two of the most popular things that a person would see and then, send to 5 of their friends and be like, yo, check this out. This shit's so funny. Or it's crazy that this happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I can get with that. I'm just looking.
Anime,
What was that?
because horror anime, though.
Yeah,
Because
horror anime.
I did have something I wanted to ask about horror anime and discuss.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we'll get back on topic a little bit. So obviously we don't watch a lot of horror anime or even horror shows in general, as far as I know from the 3 of us. So my thought was just, is there anything that you feel like makes you steer away from it, or do you just feel not exposed to enough of it?
Actually, I feel like not that like I gravitate towards it, but I don't go away from it. I don't know because I think I watched a lot of horror like growing up mainly. And then even at work, I'll be bored and I'll like listen to like horror stories or whatever, just as I'm walking around doing shit.
I do that.
I feel like I steer away from horror in media a lot, but I feel like that's because I hate slashers. I think that they're the worst written things in existence.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are definitely written like when I was younger, I watched a lot more horror, but now it's like, okay, this is all like really dark shit. Like jump scares are you can tell when one's about to happen. Generally, even when even I don't know, because like you think about like Five Nights at Freddy's really big, but that was just all jump scares or whatever. But even then, like as a kid, like maybe for like the first jump scare it might get you, but then after that it just becomes like trying to like game the system, in which I did. Like there's like a literal formula to like beat these games that you could easily just follow, and that's what you'd figure out and do. At some point it stopped being horror and started being more of like a puzzle.
I think the puzzle part, that's the part I kind of like. I also like well, I guess it's more of a mystery thing, but like crime stories, I listen to those a lot.
Yeah, I listen to
they're horrific, I guess, but
true crime. I'm like a bona fide
I
white
love that
girl.
stuff. I don't know why. It's just like
it just gets me through work. Like if I'm like, usually I listen to like a podcast or music or something, but like if I don't have any episodes out or if I don't feel like listening to music, then I'll pop on some horrific stories that make me feel bad.
Done with the Bocchi the Rock OST?
I don't. It really is a genre I tend to stay away from. I don't know why.
I stay away from it because of gore most of the time. And
gore is definitely a reason, because I
also hate jump scares. I like my friends. Okay, aside, my friends are like my roommates. My freshman year of college,
you don't have to
they used to like randomly turn on the. No, so we had like a shared bathroom where like we had two people in one room, two people in the other room, and then we had like a bathroom between us, so 4 people. So you had to lock both sides. So if I forgot to lock one side, someone would come in and like turn off the lights while I was taking a shower, and I used to get so scared. I thought someone was gonna like murder me or something like that. So I'm like really bad with jump scares or that kind of stuff. So I think like horror elements, they have to be like very carefully crafted in order for me to like it. Like Promise Neverland worked for me. That was fine. But I think like jump scares and gore and stuff like that, I just like cannot handle.
I can't handle gore, but that's because I like get sick when I see blood.
Yeah, no, I hate blood. It's one of the reasons like I don't think I could ever become a doctor, for example.
But in the context of anime, that's usually not an issue. It is a reason why I stay away from some anime. Made in Abyss for the longest time I stayed away from because I heard it was gory, and I was like, I don't really like gore that much.
I don't know if maybe a little bit. Yeah. It's not like as
it's hard to say. It's hard to gauge too, because they're definitely,
I think it's
super gory.
It's pretty
things.
messed up.
I would say when it does get messed up, it gets really messed up. But
like an episode 10 or 11 or whenever around that time.
Yeah, whenever there's an event that happens in a season that, well, even like a lot of season 2 has some horrific imagery, but I don't know. It's complicated. I can't explain it without spoilers, obviously.
Yeah, I 2x those parts. I just like, okay, I have to get like what's going on, but I don't need to see every excruciating detail, so I put that on 2 times speed. And
like an example I can think of, I guess this is ReZero season 1 spoiler for anyone who is listening and hasn't watched that. Kind of.
What have you been doing with your life? No.
And the one that I think of the most, for some reason, was the fucking when he gets smashed by the flail or whatever.
Like Rem's Morningstar or whatever.
Yeah. Yes. That's like one of the ones that's stuck in my head the most.
Wait, season 1? Which
right,
I remember.
Arc 2, like when his eyeball rolls.
Yeah, I hated that part. Oh my gosh, that.
Yeah.
The chills, dude.
That's like a specific example that I can talk about and know of that like I did not like. Also, anything involving the fucking psycho assassin bitch.
In season 2, like one of like 2 moments I can 100% point to an anime. One of them comes from ReZero. Even having read it before, like the description in text of the bunnies eating him in season 2. was like the description was something. So like seeing it animated was like I was still very unsettled by just seeing that happen. And then I guess like the other moment in anime would be in the Maiden Abyss movie. It's not even like a gore moment. It's just an uncomfortable moment. I'm not going to spoil it, but I guess
there was, and people who know.
Well, there's a few moments in the movie that I could be pointing to. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of it's a show. I'll never be able to recommend it to anyone, but it's a show.
Yeah. I just cannot handle. I think it's like one of the reasons I started watching. This is like a really long time ago, but like Mirai Nikki, you know that Future Diary or whatever. Yeah, that show. That show is too much gore for me. Like I every episode has it pretty much. So I would watch one episode and like it wasn't even that I found the story like particularly bad or everything. I know people have like different opinions on it, but like it was fine enough. Like it was interesting enough for me. But like I had to like stop after every episode just because it was too bad. And I'm like, dude, why am I doing this to myself? Like it's fine if I don't see this show. So I don't know if I'll ever watch that show just because of the gore.
I've never particularly felt like watching it, but it's not necessarily because of it being gore or like horror or anything. It just hasn't looked generally interesting, which I guess is the second half of why I don't watch a lot of horror anime, is because the aesthetic that a lot of them have is just not an aesthetic I tend to go for.
Mm-hmm. It's not cute. Not enough.
Even Shadow's House was something that I remember when it first came out, me seeing like promotional work for it and be like, it doesn't quite look my jam. You know, obviously that boils down to like a single poster or something that I would have seen.
Yeah.
But still,
I think it's a little bit better with anime than like if you showed me like an American. Well, at least for me, if you showed me like an American horror film, trailer, I wouldn't watch it.
I have zero interest in American horror. I don't trust American.
I've seen a couple and I just
writers to make a compelling story. I don't like slashers and I don't like gore.
You mean you don't want to go watch the Winnie the Pooh movie?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like most people at this point go into horror expecting it to be shit, or at least most reasonable people.
No, it's like
no. They 100% do. Yeah. Like we bring up Cocaine Bear, but no one's going to Cocaine Bear expecting it to be a good movie. It might be a good movie.
It's like the same thing with like that quote unquote like what we call like trash anime. You know, like you go in with an expectation, right? And then like the expectation for like a lot of American horror movies is just to get scared. Like legit. That's like people enjoy that. It's like the same thing for like roller coasters. I mean, similar thing, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, my experience with horror movies extends to like late night sleepovers at friends' houses. And what were we trying to do? We were trying to get scared. I don't like it, but that is the goal. So it's like, sure, the stories are bad, but I think for a lot of people, it's just like not the reason they consume horror movies. So.
I agree, but the reason I consume anything is for the story.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing for me. Yeah, that's why I don't think I enjoy or would enjoy horror movies. So, yeah, I don't have any interest in willingly getting scared. That is just not for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what my attract. I guess I definitely like things that are more have the story of the characters. Specifically the characters, I guess, more than anything. So I feel like at this point in time, like even if you come up with a quote original story, a lot of them can be broken down to like the same structure, just with like a different and same thing with characters. Like you're not gonna have like a very original plot or a very original set of characters, but what you can have is like an original setting around them that makes it feel fresh, I suppose. Like I don't know, like Fate's a battle royale or whatever, I guess, if you really think about it. Not even think about it, it just is a battle royale.
It's quite literally a battle royale.
And so it's not like the summoning of, or I guess like that's technically part of the setting is like you have this modern world, but like with this, I don't even know what to really describe it as, like a religious undertone, I guess, to like these character summonings and stuff. No, that's probably not. I don't know. You know what I mean? But like that's kind of like what the setting is. That's what your world is. This modern world with like this group. Really, your world. The way you build your world is how your story becomes unique, because like if you look at different things, like you can see characters grow, and you can probably point to another show where like in Steins Gate, the main character kind of like he starts off as cringe, and then as the reality around him becomes much more serious, he has to change to be a more serious person. You can point to ReZero, and it's like the exact same thing, but the settings are completely different. And so that's what makes those things different, is they have different situations to react to, and so it changes the way you view things.
That's also a concept that I feel like I haven't seen. I guess the problem is not that I haven't seen it in horror, it's that most of the time anything horror-ish that has those elements is just transitioning to a different genre in like the way that we think about it. Summertime Rendering, for example, starts off feeling like it could very easily be something like a horror, but then it kind of transitioned into being more of a thriller. And that might just be because personally we interpret it as more of a thriller when it actually starts to, do character stuff.
Yeah, once it kind of gets its role going. Yeah, there's a lot of, I don't know, definitely how things are presented will, I guess more is, it's really Summertime Render becomes less of a horror as you learn more about the mystery that is, that the setting is, I suppose. Because once you learn a little bit more, it doesn't become as, like, you understand. I guess, like, the fear of the unknown is, like, the most common fear probably among people. And so once you, like, in Summertime Render, you don't know anything of what's happening, but, like, so what happens in episode 5 by the time you get to the end may seem like literally nothing, because you know the context behind it, and you know, and so you know there's a way to combat that. Because like when you initially see maybe big Sherry Shadow Man, you're like, oh fuck, how the fuck are we gonna beat that? But then like later on, you're like, oh, I know how we can beat that. And it becomes much less of a problem as the show transitions into like battle shonen mode versus horror.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, makes sense.
I agree, and that
I think
maybe that's just a way that we interpret horror as a genre, and maybe that's just kind of one of the core things of horror is just kind of at being that simplistic, like, oh, people are gonna die and it's scary, and that's like how it works. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I think probably it's also just better because like you guys mentioned like the transition into other genres, but I think also like just the mix with other genres, it's like can often just enhance, well, number one, the story, because it's no longer focused specifically on making people scared, but I think including horror elements is good. Yeah.
Mixing genres is always good. I think it maybe is one of those things where maybe the horror genre just gets overshadowed by just anything else, because that's naturally how horror operates. Because like you said, the thing that attracts most people to horror is going to be, the shock factor, the jump scares, gruesome acts, stuff like that. And as a story matures, it can still have those things, but they're probably going to be in less large amounts.
Yeah, that's true. It also doesn't, well, I should say it doesn't, but like often I think, yeah, I think what I'm trying to look for, I guess, in the anime specifically that I don't know if I've seen is where it's like, it's horror is like actually just genuinely the focus of the entire thing. I guess that's kind of what's missing. I shouldn't say missing. I mean, I don't care particularly, like I mentioned, but I feel like that's something I haven't seen as much. But I also, there's like a bajillion anime that I haven't seen, so I don't know.
Is Danganronpa a Japanese?
Isn't that like more of a mystery thing?
A game.
I know it's a game.
It's like horror.
Natively Japanese, because
pretty
that's
sure it's
something
Japanese.
I could think of. That's something I could think of. That's like kind of going in that direction. Obviously, it's a game that was adapted into an anime, but I feel like if it's still Japanese media. It's like
Yeah,
relevant
it was.
enough to the conversation.
Yeah, it's a Japanese game. Yeah. I did watch the anime. I wouldn't call it that scary. I guess like it fits once again under the idea of once you understand what's happening, it's not that
Yeah,
scary. I guess.
it's more of like what, a murder mystery, isn't it, or something similar to
So
that?
what like the basis of it is, and I don't know anything about the games. I haven't played them. But so these people get locked within like this school building, at least for like Danganronpa 1. I'm sure there's different settings and shit for the other ones, but a group of people get locked in this building, and to quote graduate, they have to be like the last one standing. And so the idea is, there are like I guess a couple ways to get out. Like technically, you can make it to like the very end and be like in a 1v1, and then you'd probably just kill the other person. You'd win. But to get to that point, there's another set of whatever, is that whenever like someone can get killed, let's say character B stabs character A, and so now characters like C, D, and B are put into a situation where you have X amount of time to investigate the murder. And then once that time is up, you go into like a court session, and you can all question each other based on the evidence you have, and be like, you try and find out who done it, basically. And if whoever you pick, if they did do it, then everyone lives. You get to keep playing, and then someone else has to murder another person. But if you guess the wrong person, then the person who actually did the murder they win. Like everyone else dies. The person who done it won.
So it's like Survivor, but for murder.
Basically, it's a murder mystery, except I don't know. It definitely feels like a more interesting game than it was an anime. I thought the anime was fine. I just wasn't that. With like the game, you can like get it more attached to the characters, and I think things can unfold differently, even if it's like heading towards like a general ending. Like in the anime, it's like, all right, I'm not going to get attached to anyone because I know this character and this character are going to survive because they're the important ones, and then everyone else is like fodder, basically.
Kind of also one of the issues that I have with slashers, obviously, but the genre in general is you kind of know going into something that's supposed to be like a slasher or a murder mystery or something that like, yeah, my main character is safe and no one else is. And it's not necessarily bad to have that expectation, but you do, in a story, you lose the shock value that I feel like I value more than just being like, well, everyone's going to die and I want to see how it happens, which is, I think, the general public how they like to enjoy something like horror.
Yeah, there's a really interesting movie called it's Cabin in the Woods. I don't know if you all have heard about it.
Yeah, I have.
So it's a horror movie. Yeah, it sounds typical horror movie or whatever, but the concept.
Wait, have I seen this movie? I feel like I have.
When I describe it, you'll probably, if you haven't seen the movie, or if you have seen the movie, this will bring it back to you. But basically, it presents itself as like a standard horror at first, but then it makes it very clear that it's more like a comedy. So what it is like, I don't remember how many people. It's like 5 teens or something like that go into a cabin in the woods, and then whenever they get there, they're like looking around the cabin, and they find a basement. It's like full of a bunch of artifacts and shit. And that's when there may have been stuff before, but maybe at that moment, I believe, at least, it cuts to like this facility where there's like a group of people watching, and they're all betting on which artifact they'll choose to like set the story off. And if they pick like the seashell, then they'll be haunted, or not, they'll be like attacked by mermaids or something like that. If they pick the unicorn horn, then killer unicorns will be the like force in that movie, I guess. And so it's like basically the creation of a horror movie kind of through
these dumb
these dumb kids, but like they're like scientists like watching, I guess. And they're like setting all these scenarios up, like, you know, like the Hunger Games or whatever. They had like the game master who can like spawn shit into the map. That's basically what these people were. And so you're basically watching them go through like a horror movie that is being set up by these like people in just another room or whatever. I think the point is to have all of them or at least like kill most of them. And because they're like trying to fulfill some like fucking sacrifice ritual or something. But it's and they have like horror movies all over the world. It's an interesting concept. I'm probably not doing it justice, but yeah, it's an interesting like twist on the horror genre, and it's like why all these tropes exist or whatever.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that's cool. I haven't seen it. I've heard of it. I've 100% heard of it, and like I was looking at like the pictures of it. So
You describe me, it convinces me I've not heard of it, which is a problem. But it sounds. It's like one of those things. I don't know if I would be into it, but the idea sounds cool enough.
I would watch it. That sounds cool. I always like those like parody. I shouldn't say parody, but like, you know, kind of parody.
It's definitely a parody, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess right.
It's like if you pulled this up at AX, I would watch it, but alone, I would.
When
never,
you guys are drunk.
Rush will be the only one to.
Oh, okay. You have to take care of him.
I'm hoping that he doesn't do anything, but we'll see.
Oh no. He's probably very safe. You know, he's not very dangerous.
I don't think
probably say some stupid stuff.
He's not like a violent drunk. He's an annoying as fuck drunk.
That's what he wants you to think. Yeah.
That's the problem. Is if he's being annoying as fuck in our hotel room, it's not like I can just go mute him.
I can't block him. I can't block him in real life.
There's a block button IRL.
Yeah.
I get that. Okay. Yeah. That'd be a good movie to.
It'd be an interesting to watch, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess like another genre. Or I'm just trying to think of like parody things in anime because I feel like we've discussed them before, where there's like a show that like kind of looks at the basic tropes and like kind of goes against them. Or what was that?
The problem is, I feel like for us, maybe because of translation reasons, there's like a lot of things that some people would say are parody and some people would say are not. And it's like, at least with the English speaking audience, very up to debate. Because like, for example, we've talked about In Another World with my smartphone before, because I like it, but I also strictly view it as a parody, because that's how, at least to me, I experienced it. It felt like a parody.
Right.
But a lot of people that I've talked to about it are like, no, this dog shit is taking itself 100% seriously. And I don't quite get that, but it's like interesting because to me it feels very clearly parody.
Right.
I feel like there are a lot of dumb isekai that definitely feel like they take them. Like, I will say, I didn't like it, but Eminence in Shadow very clearly made itself to be a parody. And then like Konosuba as well.
I was gonna say Konosuba is one that everyone calls parody, and I see it, but like I didn't take Konosuba that much as a parody, in my opinion, as like some other stuff I watched that like other people wouldn't call parody. I guess how I would describe it.
Right.
And you have the one.
I've only seen the movie, so
shit, which double dips and is like, we're gonna be a parody but also take our story seriously, kind of.
Yeah. But that's what I was thinking about, like if there's an equivalent for like horror, but I don't know. It's just when you have a parody, you kind of have to do it of like an established genre, I guess, or established concept. So
the problem is
horror is not popular.
Horror content's not good enough to need parodies, because when they make horror parodies, it just ends up being a worse slasher.
Horror is a parody in itself.
Yeah, there's this movie I watched in college called Poultrygeist, which is about a haunted like KFC. It's just a haunted KFC, but the chicken zombies, and it's like such a bad, like it's not bad in a like normal sense, because it is like crazy amounts of parody, but it's also just not good because it's just haunted KFC with like chicken zombies and chicken ghosts.
Yeah, you hear the like the concept, like that's fucking hilarious. Let me watch that, but then you watch it and you're like, you know what? I don't know what else I expected.
You're like, yeah, exactly. You're like, it was a little funny, but it was also like exactly what you signed up for.
I guess like the most well known would be like Scary Movie in terms of parody for horror. Fuck. I'm trying to think of what it. I
Problem
can't.
is, Scary Movie might be better than most slashers.
There's a slasher. I can't. I think it was called The Terrifier or something like that. I have to look it up.
The Terrifier.
Yeah. What, dude? It was. It was a movie of all time. For sure.
All right.
Okay, yeah, it was The Terrifier. So what? There's just like this clown slasher thing where it's like just supposed to be really unsettling the entire time. I wouldn't call it scary. It does not take itself seriously at all. There's one point where he kills a woman, like cuts her boobs off and puts them on himself, and so
I'm out.
that's the kind of movie that it is.
I don't know.
Yeah, and it's really fucking funny when you see it because you're not expecting it. I don't know. And there's a second one. I haven't watched that, but all I know is I watched the first one with my friends, and it was pretty fucking stupid. But I don't know. I guess I feel like a lot of mysteries turn into, or I can have the horror elements because depending on what the mystery is, I guess. Like another real life movie. Multiple. We talked a lot of real life movies on the anime podcast today, but that's fine. Probably one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite. It's called Seven. It's got Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
It sounds familiar. I may have seen it, or at least heard about it.
I'll link the IMDb to it. But it's based on like there's a serial killer whose MO is like the 7 deadly sins or whatever. And-
I have heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, and so he'll kill in regards to that. Like he made it's like the first kill of the movie or something like that to like start things off. Is gluttony, and he made a guy just keep eating until he died. Yeah, and so that was like his gluttony kill, and then yeah, there's a lot of different ones, and you probably know. Do you know the scene like What's in the Box?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, if you heard it, you would maybe understand, but it's like probably one of the more iconic movie endings. I feel like.
Gotcha. Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
It's a good movie.
Okay, let's check it out then.
But yeah, it's a mystery, but like because of like the setting it's in, it's like it rains for the majority of this movie. In like this urban setting, it's generally pretty dark. It's set in like an older period, so there's not like lights everywhere at all times or anything like that.
Right.
Well, I say older period, not like that old, but maybe like it definitely feels more like 90s, 80s type of area, in like an urban situation. And I feel like there's not many anime that have that like that really have that kind of setting, I feel. Yeah, like if I look at my horrors specifically on any list, like a lot of them are more specifically, like we have Made in Abyss, that's a fantasy. ReZero's a fantasy. Shadow's House technically is a fantasy. And even like I don't know, Shadow's House I wouldn't call because like it does have like a bit of comedy in it as well. And while it does have its horror moments, and I would definitely call it a gothic horror. I wouldn't like. Yeah. Say it's too focused on that.
It's one of those things where I feel like it's not really a horror, but it's also aesthetically.
It's aesthetically like a horror.
Yeah, yeah. Horror.
Aesthetically a horror, then you like look at Emilico GIFs, and then it's no longer a horror.
Yep.
That makes sense. I think, yeah, I would just be curious because I'm looking at the list and any list of like just through horror and some of these it's just I mean I guess it's just any list being like weird with like genres and stuff like that. It's like
always a problem.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of these are just like I mean it's more psychological I guess so maybe that's just also
like
just
how
not thinking about.
A lot of things get labeled like a comedy, even though that's not the focus. Like they just like My Hero's not a fucking comedy, but it's gonna have the comedy label on it because there's comedy in it sometimes, type of thing.
Sure.
I feel like a lot of that can label like stick itself onto some of these.
Terrifying horror anime of all time. Let's see what this random article I found says to say. Another
Shinsekai Yori.
Another mix.
Chimpact anime.
watched.
I have not watched it. I think it's something I wanted to watch eventually, but I just haven't.
I've already said it before, but I tried to watch the show like 50 times. I just couldn't get through it. It's more of a psychological thing. But,
is Berserk a horror? I guess.
It has horrific imagery. I haven't read it, or I'm going to read it. I'm not going to watch the anime or anything. I don't know what the anime treats it as. But
it's horror.
Black Butler, yeah, that makes sense. But even Black Butler, isn't it like mystery?
I have no idea.
Much as it would be horror. I'm pretty sure it's like a mystery type of thing.
Yeah.
I know there's probably a butler in there. That's all I know about it.
Dead Man Wonderland, I guess.
I would say, like, the farther down you go, the less I can tell what the fuck any of this shit. I've never seen some of this in my life, for sure.
Yeah, that tells you the
this list I'm looking at definitely feels scope, because it had another which was good.
JoJo's.
That it was like some things that, from everything I've heard about, like, I guess count.
I don't know if I'd like Talon's Nana. I don't know if I call that a horror. It's like a reverse horror type of thing. I don't know.
Reverse horror.
Well, it's like, imagine you're just playing Among Us as the imposter. That's the best way I can describe Talon's Nana.
Can't escape Among Us, man.
It's actually the best. This anime came out like right during the Among Us craze too, and they had like the best timing of all time for its shit. But that's the only way I can describe Talon's Nana is just Among Us, but you're the imposter.
But you're okay. That makes sense, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, I just have not seen that many horror movies or horror anime, so I can't say much about the scope.
Media has just drained me of the desire of consuming horror content.
Yeah, just don't want to see it. The slashers ruined it for you.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the only horror I've actually seen recently was my friend made like a 30-minute thing because he's trying to be a film director and he's big into horror, and so he made a thing and I watched it, but other than that, it's not something I go to because I just know it's gonna be shit mainly, and I consume enough trash anime that I don't need trash horror to supplement anything.
Yeah, I feel that. I just don't want to consume any trash.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something to be like, I'm the only human being on planet Earth that's watching the farm isekai right now, and I'm sure obviously there are other people out there.
There's one more person. You gotta find.
There might be one other person out there. I don't know. It's I cannot wait for this shit to be over. It's actually so bad. It's better than the other one, but it's still bad.
Which one is it? The
farm one. The one that they're supposed to be sex in.
Oh, that.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Don't question it. It took 10 episodes for.
Yeah.
Took 10 episodes for them to like even allude to it. Not even, and by that I mean like a character is pregnant, and even though like this character and another character don't interact at all, I'm like, what the fuck happened here? I don't know.
That's a way to do it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the end of the episode and it's like, yeah, I think she's pregnant. I'm like, wait, what? Like technically they're like husband and wife, but they don't talk to each other. There's too many fucking characters in the show, and they add like literally 50 new ones every time, and I'm never gonna remember any of them. I don't know. That's definitely the biggest problem. It has too many fucking characters in it, and I don't care about any of them.
Just wait until we get the anime of the 100 girls.
Yeah, the what's it called for that? The 100 Girlfriends like premise is fucking hilarious, but I also question how much I can enjoy it because I know that it's like a rotating door of characters besides the main character. So he's gonna have to be a Chad for me to get into it probably.
I mean, it sounds fun. When it comes to anime, I'll probably watch it, but I don't have any real expectations for like how I should feel about it or anything. Kind of similar. If the main character's a Chad, I'll probably be more into it. But it's also like, how much could you really balance like 100 characters like that? I feel like it's just gonna be.
It's gonna have like even
like 5 to 10 main ones.
Yeah. Like,
and then a bunch of others that exist and maybe come up every so often.
Like Data Life has this problem now, and it's not even anywhere fucking close to 100 characters, where it's just like no one really gets screen time anymore unless they're important at the moment. And so it's like I don't know how far 100 girlfriends can go before it gets completely unbalanced. How many characters fucking Data Life have at this point? Data Life, that's 3. Fuck.
Gotta be a good amount, because I've met, like 7, and I'm only partway through season 2.
So we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 like 11. Sorry, 11 harem-based ones. Yeah, I don't know. It's at the point where a lot of them have just been moved to like from main character to supporting role, unless they're like too already too important. Yeah. Like I don't know. It's definitely yeah. Like once you have your important moment, you're kind of like, all right, move to the side. We have new character to meet now, and so it's definitely hard to balance, which is unfortunate because like I don't know, because I like character interactions, and so when characters don't actually get to interact, it's very awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Character interactions, especially like character interactions not involving the MC, also are just like nice and help me get into some of the characters a lot more, especially in something like a harem, for example. You know, it's
all the
cool
members of the harem talking to each other without the main
exactly.
character.
I feel like that's fun.
I feel like it's part of why like
have to be a serious thing.
It's part of why Quince was successful, probably, is because like
it's true.
All the characters actually felt like characters. Even if I didn't like all of them, but it does better than
they interacted with each other. They interacted with the main character. They all had motivations that clashed or complemented at various times. Mostly clashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that doesn't happen in American horror movies. That's what's bad. It's actually
characters interacting with each other does not happen in American horror movies unless they are fucking and about to die.
yeah, that's true.
Or getting mad at each other. I hate
both of those things might also be happening at the same time. Too, so.
I just want to see a horror movie where like it's a parody of like there's just one villain who can never kill anyone because they always make the correct decisions. Like they don't go into the closet or just like a really I just want a horror movie of like a killer getting blue balls, but just by all the characters not doing anything stupid.
You just see at end scene, you just see the murderer just disappointed in the fact that it didn't work.
Yeah, like
I would like that. That'd be interesting.
It'd be because Alfred Hitchcock, he has a nice thing where he talks about like creating suspense and tension or whatever. So if like we know that the killer is hiding behind this closet and the characters don't know that, you're still creating the suspense and tension, but then they just walk away and the killer gets really pissed off. I feel like that'd be a funny concept. I'll have to pitch that.
It sounds entertaining. I don't know if it could actually be good in practice.
I feel like it'd have to be like a short film.
Watching it. Yeah. Like I saw this on my YouTube Shorts or something, I would be entertained by it. Or if it was like a 15-minute, 20-minute short film, I would probably be entertained by it. It obviously couldn't be a full movie.
Yeah, I should pass it on to my friend who's doing the horror stuff now. I bet he didn't say no, but
yeah, you can write the script. He'll
the
actual filmmaking.
He's making a longer one now. It's gonna be like over an hour or something like that. And so
horror as well. Is it still horror?
Yeah, he's big into horror or whatever.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Like he was working like 3 jobs at once to help fund his first thing. Yeah.
See, that's why I stopped doing filmmaking, because I did that, and it sucks.
Yeah, and of course there's like he has people to donate and stuff.
Work and he's happy with it. Obviously, more power.
It's been his passion for a while. So yeah.
I hated that lifestyle. Like living it, not like other people living it, me living it.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, the most terrifying moment of this episode is the fact that it's ending right now. And so if you enjoyed, you should subscribe to the Gochuucast, leave a like, and if you're on audio only, you should follow us. I can only see the Spotify ones, but even if we can't see that you're following us, we still appreciate it. I think looking at like our analytics, it's interesting to like look at audience now, and like the Spotify is going down as like the other ones go up, which is a good thing. Obviously, we want even if it's easiest to get what's it called, like analytics through Spotify stuff. It's nice to see the other ones go up. Like we used to not have Apple Podcasts there like at all, and now it's 5% of the audience. And Spotify's like fallen under 70%, so it's cool to see that. It means we have a diverse amount of people watching us in different ways or listening to us.
Apple Andes.
It's also more of a clear sign that it's like expanding reach, because if like the numbers just stayed the same, it could mean that we were just growing everything at a somewhat equal rate, but what it most likely would mean is that nothing's really growing all that much.
Yeah, like most of our episodes get like 12 plays minimum. Shout out to Anime Music and Anime Video Games for not even hitting like 4, but yeah, RIP those episodes. Can't blame people for that one, but I definitely appreciate all the listeners. We don't know any of you besides the ones that are our friends, but we acknowledge your existence and appreciate it.
Amen.
But yeah, unless you stop listening to us, which you won't, because every Saturday at 3 p.m. EST, a new episode goes live, unless things go horrifically wrong. And so, be there.
Don't jinx it.
I would never jinx it. Things never go wrong. Never have. Never will.
Never have.
Never will. There's no proof. There's a lot of proof, but there's no proof. But yeah, thank you and goodbye. See you at another episode.